Okay, welcome back. And we're looking at President Tinubu's agric reforms and price stability. The implication of that, of course, is that if the reforms are working, it could have an impact on price stability. Now, where we ended up just before we went on break, I wanted to bring that across to Mohammed Sanusi Ilo. In fact, what African Farmer Magwaji was saying, it seems to introduce, it seems like it's counterintuitive because people think of agriculture as agriculture. He added diplomacy into it, that there actually is an aspect of it that, you know, could that could concern diplomacy. You have to be aware of everything that you're doing and the impact it is going to have on, you know, other partners, global partners. Weigh in on that particular aspect, considering all the, you know, advisors that we have. Okay, I'm sorry. It does appear that the sound is not reaching you. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes. I can hear you now, not very clearly.
Not very clearly. So sorry about that.
Okay, I can hear you now.
Okay, cool. Well, just before we went on break, African Farmer Mogaji was explaining how there's a diplomatic aspect, contrary to what many people might think is the case, to agriculture. Apart from the know-how, the knowledge, the straightforward aspect of putting something in the ground and it growing, that's what a lot of us think of as farming. But there are other aspects to it, and not least of which is the diplomatic aspect. I'm afraid that one, that hit me sideways. I didn't think of agriculture in that light. But when you start thinking of something that we are producing, like you look at the Netherlands, for example, as he was explaining, and, you know, they, in their own milk production, might not fully endorse our wanting to go into that area as well. Could you just weigh in on that whole aspect? It might be one of the clues to why we are not doing as well as we...
Your sound is not good enough.
Sorry, it seems that there's some sound leaking in. But did you hear the question?
I'm not getting you well because the sound is not really clear.
Oh dear. The sound is in and out, right?
So, yes, sometimes you sound clear and then it fades out. So I can.
Okay. Let me take a call. Maybe it will somehow clear the lines. We got Mr. George calling in from Ikeja. We'll be right back if it clears up the lines. Good morning, Mr. George.
So the two experts, I'm hoping that my call will clear the lines for everybody to hear you.
Yes, I hope so too, because we can hear you loud and clear.
Right. Uncle Yori, the topic of today's discussion is Tinubu's reforms and pricing system in the agricultural sector. It takes me back to the manifestos of Mr. President during the election. I remember seeing something like commodity boards in that manifesto, which the president said he was going to implement. The commodity boards would act as buffer, bridges between the producers and the consumers in order to be able to manage prices, to avoid what recently happened to agricultural products, prices of agricultural products. I don't know what has happened to that. The Minister of Agriculture has not even once spoken about that since the administration took off. I know that there is insecurity in the farming system, but the one we are able to produce, why is the community board not coming on board to manage that one, if only to tackle the inflationary trend in that sector? I think you need to help us further, Uncle Yori, to bring somebody in government that can answer this question. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And let me just check with Mohammed Ilo. Can you hear me better now?
I hear you now, but I couldn't really. I heard the last speaker talking about bringing in somebody, something like that. But I think as you're speaking now, I heard you.
Okay. Now I am having something of a slight difficulty in hearing you myself. But the question was the aspects.
Have you heard me? You heard me, really?
Yes, I can hear you.
You can hear me.
I can hear you. So I'd like you to weigh on some aspects of agriculture that is not plain to the ordinary person who perhaps might not be a consummate agri professional, understanding how there are actually diplomatic aspects to agriculture. People might say, what are you talking about, diplomatic aspects? You're on a combined harvester or whatever it is that you're on. What does diplomacy have to do with that? But I've just been hearing this morning that it's actually not like that at all. That there are things that people need to take diplomatic knowledge of, and that might be lacking in some of the experts that we have. They might be expert quite all right within their field, but when you throw it in the mix, are they really, the best that we have?
Now, if I understand what you're talking about very well, like the last speaker was talking about the technocrats having to do very well when it comes to doing what they have to do in the office. But getting down the line to outreach to farmers is another thing that you need to know how best to do it, how you relate to them. And probably we talk about, say, for instance, government support to the farmer. Government having done what it's supposed to do, awarding contracts to supply what has to be supplied, which is meant for the farmer. That is one aspect. The other aspect is how very well really can you handle the issue of ensuring that the farmer gets what he is supposed to get at the right time, in the right quantity probably, and the quality he is supposed to get. To the technocrat who sits in the office after being supplied with whatever quantum of liters of, for instance, herbicides or any item, he only can reason with, that's how much I said should be given. But what is the quality of what he is receiving, he doesn't know. Somebody else will have to do that, and you will really have to bring him close to you to understand what that means, to satisfy the standard that is required to be met so that that item will be of benefit to the farmer. Now, like I said, and I will keep mentioning this, when you come to give out these issues, there are so many structures. That is when it comes to now the issue of diplomacy, having to deploy the services of other people and work with them, effectively, so that what you want to do, which you are targeting, will really get through very well. Many a times, this which is given to the farmer in terms of support, either by subsidizing that item or giving for free, the intended service is lost along the way. When you don't have generated data, for instance, farmer data generation, which will tell you about every farmer you have, what he does, his field size, and therefore his requirements. These are very important. We take them for granted, but they do a lot in ensuring what really becomes of what support the government has given and what the farmer can be able to do with what he has been given. So it is now diplomatic that you draw probably the interest groups, the associations close to you, bring them, and then you understand the structure you're going to use in trying to streamline these items to outreach those for whom they are made. That's the grassroots farmer. I keep pounding on the grassroots farmer because once you don't find efficiency in the final target or on the final target, being the farmer, a lot of what is being done or that which will be done will be wasted. So I feel that diplomacy from the part of the technocrat, which is placed there by the government, should involve other people who are competent in ensuring that what they are pushing to the farmer gets to him and timely. Not only give the farmer items, when you don't time what he requires at a given time, which is technical, you give him whatever you give him at the wrong time. It gives little or no help to him. So it is very important that we bring people together. Every person or everybody that is, of help to what we are trying to do, bring him in, and that ensures some item of diplomacy into the execution of your intended support.
Wow. Well, thank you very much. You see, this is turning out to be a conversation on some of the errors that possibly might have been made in the setup that we find ourselves in. Although that's a difficult thing to say, considering that there's so much expertise, in government and perhaps in governance. And so when they come up, when we now, after the fact, are beginning to identify some of those areas that might have landed us precisely where we are now. As I said, it can be a bit delicate because there's such a wealth of expertise, experience, not to mention political savvy involved. But there again, you begin to say that political savvy, did I just add? Well, how would one put it? Because the impression that could be got is that we have landed where we are. Things could have been a lot better if only we had paid attention to certain other things. But then in order to do that, you have to know about it. You have to know that these are pitfalls. Mm-hmm. You see, that is where I was saying that it's a difficult thing, because how will you say that those that are up there don't know their onions?
So they may know their onions. So take, for instance, you can be an expert in tomato production, but don't have the experience managing tomato project nationally.
Okay.
Do you get?
One moment, please. I'll remember that tomato example because I want to bring in Professor Edmund, who is calling in from Enugu, and I don't want us to lose him. Good morning, Professor Edmund.
Oh, yeah. Good morning, Mr. Yori.
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Go ahead, please.
Yes, good morning, Yori. Thanks for the opportunity.
Our pleasure. Please go.
I've been listening to the two of your guests.
Yes.
But it seems that for the average Nigerian and for people watching the television, let's go back to the topic. Tinubu's agric reforms and price stability. That is the topic. So our emphasis, cautions, should be centered on that topic that we brought out on the screen.
Yes.
We haven't said that. Let me start by saying that the stomach is regarded as the brain of the body. So what do I mean by that? That the stomach is regarded as the brain. If the stomach is adequately taken care of, the brain will eventually function appropriately. But as it would, many Nigerians are hungry. Nigerians are hungry because of food insecurity. And this food insecurity is as a result of a lot of factors that federal government, state government, and local governments have not been paying attention to. Because food is not a federal government affair. Agriculture, rather, is not a federal government affair. It is both for federal, state, and local government. So there should be a synergy between these three arms of government. And again, I ask myself, where is commodity boards that we used to have 60s, 50s and 60s? Where is the price stabilization board that used to manage prices in Nigeria? Where is commodity boards that farmers rely on to market their products? So having said that, we've neglected agriculture for so long in this country as a result of oil. We think we breed oil, and that is having a serious negative effect on agricultural sector. And agriculture is a big business. It's a big business, a big-time business. So we must go back to the basics. We must go back to where we lost it. So we've lost it entirely. So I'm glad that the president is talking about reforms. But the reforms are not yet open to Nigerians to know what area of reforms he's talking about. So we want to know.
Okay, Professor. Okay, Professor Edmond, thank you very much. And now to return to, I stopped you where you were saying that, for example, a tomato project does require expertise.
So you can know about tomatoes, but have you managed a 500-acre tomato farm? You can manage it in the south. Have you managed it in like Gombe, the core north? Climate differs, culture differs. So when you are now put in an office where you are a southern person to administer a national project, and you are used to, fairly small, but now this is scale, the human capital management, the culture shock, you will be bringing experience of south to force it on the north. It doesn't work like that. Or the middle bit. So bottom line is that we need more people with experience and expertise. Your caller and the prof, they both spoken about the commodity boards. Now let's get it fundamentally right. Commodity boards function where government has been involved. If government is not involved in some measure of support, either subsidy or tax reform, government cannot influence or control prices. If you went to source 20%, 30% from the bank or individuals or financial institutions, government can't tell you how much to sell. It's market forces. So when we had commodity boards, government was supporting in extension agency, government was not supporting directly. They were supporting multinationals, SMEs, and private sector. They were working through them. Right now, government is over the years, spanning 20 years plus, government has been trying to work directly with the farmers.
How doable is that?
So when we give input directly to the farmers, who is accountable? Nobody. When you give it to private sector to implement and monitor, there will be results. So currently, we cannot, where are the commodities to put the prices on? We don't have enough of almost anything. So the model we've been using has not been working. And so we need to rejig it. So the last administration brought in the Anchor Borrowers Program, which ideally was a good project, but implemented in a bad way. What do I mean? Now, the Anchor ideally is supposed to have relationship with farmers. You just don't bring someone with large pockets to say, go and aggregate 10,000 farmers. He has not been working with 10,000 farmers. So he just goes to a community and brings 10,000 farmers. What needs to happen with the anchor borrower is we need to work with the middlemen, the people we try to, get rid of. With what we have, the middlemen are the ones that buy from the farmers, even when government is not consistent. Okay? So the farmers trust them. What government needs to do is find people who can lobby these middlemen. When I was farming wheat in Jigawa, the middlemen gave me fertilizer on credit, gave me insecticide on credit. When I sold They, they gave me back the money. They took the wheat from me. Government needs to fund these middlemen so that they can influence their operations. The middleman is third generation middleman. You can't just come one day and knock them off. We've been trying to knock them off in the last maybe 4 or 5 administrations. We need to work with them.
Wow.
When government comes, government goes, middleman stays with the farmers. Middleman gives seed. Middleman is the one providing logistics now. So we cannot throw them out. Until we begin to work with these middlemen, we will not be food secure. Everything we do, middleman. Even private sector, when private sector is bringing money, it's the middleman that buys when government interventions, subsidies and co comes. It's the middleman that bails out the private sector. So we have been demonizing the middleman for too long that we need to move our enemies close to us. Politicians do that best. During election, they parley and negotiate. We need to bring the middlemen together and work with them for Nigeria's food security. However unpopular that is.
Okay, then. Well, Mohammed Sanusi Ilo, let me give you the last word on this. I can see that you're smiling. Let me give you the last word on this. And I actually was a bit surprised when he, well, I wasn't too surprised because, you see, in the commercial sector, private sector people, they market differently in the South as opposed to the West, to the North, for example. They don't do things because you've sorted out how to, and I was going to mention, let me just mention the product. The fact that you market Omo in a particular way successfully in the South, that's not the way you market it and expect a degree of success in the North. I think that principle was embedded in what African Farmer was saying. When government brings people with the expertise, where is that expertise resident? And are they going to adjust it before going on? Let me leave enough time for you to comment on that aspect.
Thank you very much. You see, he has just finished talking about Uncle Borrower program and then what really happens in there, pushing away the middlemen. Middlemen will be replaced in another form. It's not to say they are totally away or out of the system. But the actual middleman you are talking about has always been detrimental to the farmer. The fact that the farmer harvests and the middleman will want to buy the farmer product always at a low price, and then, after a little time, he capitalizes on the ownership of these things and makes the best of profits. Now, there are other structures that can be put in by commodity associations, that interest groups that can come, like you said, should be supported by the government. The same support that will go to the individual middleman can go to these associations so that they build themselves up. All they need to do is to sell a little out of what they have to take care of their problems immediate and then keep their produce for some time so that they make best value out of it. The bitter truth is the more you downplay the prices on the farmer, the more you are incapacitating the farmer. And that is to say you are refusing him returning strongly and better to the field to return to you tomorrow what you are waiting for. That's the food he's producing.
Well,
it all depends on how you understand it, but the system can really accommodate the middleman in whichever forms he comes. But the determination of how much the farmer sells his item, is it an agreed thing when you are given, like you are talking about the middleman having given you inputs, agrochemical, fertilizer, and what have you. But at the end of the day, when you have to repay, I don't know who determines the price. Is it you, is it him, or is it the open market? That is where the problem comes about whoever comes as the middleman. Once that is really tackled properly, anybody can be a middleman, and then the farmer will really survive. What we are talking about principally is the survival of the principal actor, and the principal actor is the farmer. Why I keep saying the peasant farmer is my hero, and that is the person that really feeds the nation. And we have to look at the problems of whatever thing we're going to look at the local government level, at the state level, at the federal level. we have to look at how best the interests of the farmer will be or can be protected.
Well, I'm afraid we've
And,
run completely
by
out of
this
time.
synergy,
I do beg
somebody
your pardon.
mentioned,
I do beg your
also-
pardon. Mohammed,
Right.
hello. I do beg your pardon. We run completely out of time. But I must thank you very much for making yourself available for our
Right.
program and conversation this morning. I thank you very much. And
Thank you very
also, I thank African Farmer Mogaji for coming on the program this morning and airing this whole matter about the president's policy and its effect on price stability. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So that's our program today. Do please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Iyori Folare. Bye-bye for now.